Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. The Persistent Universe Monthly Report is available, and it is full of progress updates from CIG, so let us take a look. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members, and if you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. We are almost at that 50,000 mark. So kicking off with the animation team, they finished off performances for various in-game emotes, worked on a new mission giver, and created the facial animations for female vendors and male and female workers. Again, no information as to who this mission giver is. We are still yet to see Eddie Parr, which I believe he is found at New Babbage, I think, but they're remaining pretty secretive on this one. The character art team spent the month wrapping up Quarter 2 assets, which included working on several armor variants, and they also continued to work on the Pyro Frontier outfits, which we did see on an Inside Star Citizen pretty recently. Now for the ship art team, the UK team began improving the damage maps on all ships in preparation for the salvaging mechanic, which as we know is coming in 3.18. Development also continued on several vehicles. An unannounced ground vehicle progressed into final art and design, while a new ship entered the early grey box stage, with work on its cockpit and dashboard progressing well. Now I do wonder if this ground vehicle is to be anything to do with maybe salvaging, maybe a salvaging ground vehicle. I kind of get the impression that with salvaging on its way in 3.18, and many ground vehicles now catering for other aspects like mining with the ROC and hauling with the mule, I think they will take the opportunity to create a salvage specific ground vehicle. That is just my thoughts, no official information here, but do let me know what ground vehicle you think or would like to see for Star Citizen. Now the Banu Merchantman continued to move through Greybox with May's focus on the ship's exterior art. The team are currently working on the underside and the look and feel of its wings, so coming along very well. I do suspect in an upcoming Inside Star Citizen, maybe like a sprint report, we will get another visual update on this ship. The ARGO SRV began production as well, and is nearing white box complete with the final white box review scheduled soon. Now this ship, although doesn't have its work completing until mid-December, will be very useful with the cargo refactor, but as I say, it's not going to come anytime soon, maybe this year, fingers crossed, but when it does come, it'll certainly help moving those big containers around, or of course any salvageable ship that is just left stranded. Now the US team continued building the Drake Corsair. On its interior, major passes were completed on the turret airlock and manned turret cabin, while most of the crew quarters were finished, including the captain's quarters near the cockpit. The entire cargo hold was blocked out and details are currently being added. The main airlock and staging room on the starboard side of the ship was also completed. It's going to be so nice being able to decorate your own cabin as a captain or even just a crewmate, just finding things and putting them on display. Really like that idea. For the Corsair's exterior, progress was made on the grey box, including the nacelles and main and retro thrusters. And finally, development began on the Corsair's landing gear and remote turrets as well. Now this ship is really shaping up, very excited to see it get done, even more so now, knowing that it will be the first Drake ship to be taken to the current gold standard. So moving on, for Arena Commander, the team progressed with scanning improvements and improvements to racing mode, which are planned for an upcoming release. Now I'm assuming the scanning improvements for Arena Commander specifically are specific to Arena Commander, or whether the team are testing it out to roll it out to the universe later on, I don't know, but it's strange they would mention that specifically in the AC features. Anyway, for the character and weapon features team, they continued updating the scanning feature, improving the visual effects when triggering a ping wave while on foot, and how it highlights different contacts, with interactable items and points of interest critical to mission progression being highlighted. The team is also increasing the amount of information gathered from scanned objects. For example, a door will reveal its current state, and if it can be affected via hacking, NPCs and other players will show the contents of their personal or physical inventories, and player corpses will reveal their cause of death. Now I really love hearing about this. It kind of opens up a lot more potential for missions by way of investigating, helping players to maybe triage a situation before putting a plan together. Really excited to see more on the scanning features and how they will tie into gameplay, because I do feel scanning, the radar, the new map is going to be quite a game changer and a significant update when it all comes in. Finally, for the character and weapon features team, they created a model for serializing damage maps online, which is required for salvaging. The client is able to make accurate predictions, but can also rewind and replay applications of hits on the damage map. The server will still send a full map to the client when required, but this prediction will keep the need to send full data to a minimum. So just making salvaging a lot more optimized, as obviously there will be quite a lot of it around if player ships and NPC ships are persisting, so they've got to keep it as performance friendly as possible. Now moving on to the vehicle features team, they made great progress on quantum travel boost, trying to make it feel right as ships accelerate and attempt to maintain heading. This feature, it says, will also support points of interest, allowing pilots to fly towards highlighted destinations. So finally some idea of what quantum travel boosting will be. It sounds like it will allow players to fly at much greater speeds around the universe and maybe even in atmosphere potentially. Maybe not, I wouldn't expect that in atmosphere to be fair, but maybe at a much more reduced speed than proper quantum travel, but quicker than normal flight would allow. And I would certainly expect some trade-offs here rather than it just being an instant win. Maybe components degrade more. We will see, but happy to get some clarity there. The team are also continuing to update persistent tech features to use the new systems and fixing problems along the way. Now, the vehicle features team also continued with general balance work as well, including a pass on general items to help stop ships from shutting down from explosions, as well as continuing to balance the refueling mechanic, deciding on the volume of fuel the Starfarer can carry and the sizes of ships it can refuel. Finally, the setup and balance of the new ground vehicle physics is progressing well. They now have a baseline handling and are laying out the remaining dependencies to make them game ready. Very excited to see the new vehicle physics for wheeled vehicles coming along. It really did appear to have much more weight to it, like it was the vehicle being moved by the wheels. So really hoping this improvement will appear in a patch sooner rather than later, and of course each vehicle will end up feeling a little different based on its weight, its center of gravity, and its power to the wheel, and so on. So really interested to see this come along, and just like with Gravlev vehicle updates, they became an absolute pleasure to drive. So I'm hoping the same will happen for wheeled vehicles. Now for the lighting team, they spent the month supporting the Siege of Orison missions, which is the Ninetales mission that takes place around Orison's platforms, with the team saying the playable space of the mission is massive, which means a lot of lighting work goes into covering the whole area to provide an interesting and unique atmosphere at both day and night, while also ensuring good player visibility on objectives and AI. Now, I completely didn't even think about day and night cycles. I do love how these missions that they create, specifically planet side of course, are affected by the day-night cycle. So running through the mission at different times of day will affect your approach and tactics needed. Very cool. Anyway, continuing on with this Ninetales event, polishing and optimizations were also done, and with the space being a fully man-made exterior location, it means a lot of light entities and shadows must be rendered, so the team spent time ensuring performance was smooth enough without too much visual sacrifice. Now, the lighting team also worked on the new derelict reclaimer locations, which involved embedding them into the planet's surface and dressing and lighting each version. I am also very happy to know that we are getting these derelict reclaimers in 3.17.2, which is the patch coming around the end of June. They are the perfect ship, in my opinion, to get the derelict treatment. Large enough to have ample interior space for missions, plus many scary design cues to sell that kind of horror game feeling. So I'm really going to enjoy exploring them, or even hiding in them for when people come along to explore them. Now there's a stream. Now moving on to one team that is fast becoming my favourite to read their updates, it is the Montreal Locations team. Now they spent time working on the Reclaimer space missions and derelict Reclaimer settlement, with them currently polishing and bug fixing in prep for their release, which will complete the initial proof of concept for the derelict settlements. So a couple of things to touch upon here. Firstly, the space Reclaimer derelicts are going to be a very nice addition. Much more Dead Space vibe, I think, compared to the planetside versions, especially as they will be constantly dark rather than being affected by the day-night cycle of the planet. But also hearing that the team are finishing off the initial proof of concept for derelict settlements gets me very excited. From here, it will be a case of taking other ships and making them into derelict settlements for small NPC populations, of which we will actually hear about in a couple of seconds, I think. But these settlements will make great places for missions, mission givers, other opportunities like even thieving, theft, and so forth. Or maybe one day, I'd love for the chance to purchase or rent one of the small hubs that the NPCs live in, making a settlement my own home location for a while. So great progress here, and I can't wait to see them evolve from what they have now with the Reclaimer Derelict to more, making their way into the persistent universe. But before I rudely interrupted, it does say the next stage is to take this proof of concept and see how much more depth can be added, with variations to both environmental art and level design. Plus, they're also looking to add more module and habitation variations, more missions with different modifiers, and potentially new gameplay elements. Oh boy, love it. Now next up it says the 600i and Mercury Star Runner derelict settlements, which will be located on Daymar, progressed well throughout the month, with the level design team currently looking at what the environment art team has done in prep for adding missions and AI. So there we go. Not only are the team completing the Reclaimer derelict settlements, they are also already progressing with the 600i and Star Runner options as well. There is going to be a flurry of incredible points of interest coming to the PU soon, plus it is also nice to hear that they are initially going to populate the Crusader moon of Daymar and not intended to be seen in Pyro first, which means we could see these 600i and Star Runner derelict settlements this year, not to mention adding missions, getting AI down there so that there are maybe a patrol or NPCs living there. Whew. My brain can't take it. Now, the rework of Lorville's cityscape is ongoing, with the team switching from concept and pre-production to actual production, so I expect we will see progress of this on Inside Star Citizen's sprint report in the near future. And finally, for the locations team, the building interiors mentioned in last month's report entered the concept phase, with the team saying, "We're still in the early days and are discussing how best to organize the conception so that concept art, environment art, and level design all work together in the most efficient way. We're also defining what we want in the proof of concept and what should be our target. Everyone here is eager to tackle this challenge and find a way to add pockets of gameplay directly inside landing zones." Now, this is something that has been on my wish list for quite a while. Well, back before we even had landing zones, the idea that you could spend a long amount of time in one single area like a city and have enough content to keep you there without feeling the need to travel elsewhere. This is part of that, so providing various mission types that are dotted all around the city for players to take part in, like espionage, engineering, deliveries, literally within the main landing zones, not even further afield. Now, the narrative team continued on a handful of new missions and initiatives. This included discussing new mission archetypes and tackling the new player experience to devise a system to introduce new players to the game's various mechanics, which will be a huge benefit for sure, as there is a much greater influx of new players right now. Welcome if you are new to Star Citizen, it's a pleasure to have you here. And obviously over time this will grow, so having a smoother onboarding system will be a drastic improvement for them, but also happy to hear that they are thinking about more mission archetypes, as we are in desperate need for new missions. Also, for narrative, prep commenced for an upcoming motion capture session scheduled for next month, which involves syncing with various teams to see if they have content ready to capture, and once complete, production began locking down dates and sourcing the actors. Now, for the QA team, they started planning and testing for 3.17.2 and 3.18 to ensure that each patch's deliverable is tested as much as possible. For AI, integration checks were completed for updates to existing and new features, which were then added to the main branch, as well as testing the AI used throughout the Siege of Orison mission. And for the embedded engine QA testers, they focused on testing and locking down memory issues in-game and continued to learn more about flow graph and coding for future automation. Now, for the Montreal Tools team, the integration of the Mighty Bridge into the editor was completed. This also allows the development for the first official Mighty Bridge tool, which is Vegetation Scattering version 1. Now, this tool will allow teams to deploy vegetation without collisions, brushes and entities on planet surfaces and objects. This will especially be useful for derelict settlements and outposts, but will still be used across many PU locations. The next step, it says, is to develop a tool for creating crashed ship craters and tails in the ground in less time and at higher fidelity. I do wonder if this vegetation scattering tool will also be including the new seasonal variations to these assets, but planets are really starting to shape up. Also progressing well is the procedural location creation tool, with it saying that its foundation is now a lot stronger and the team have begun creating basic layouts. So it sounds like great achievements are being made there. Maybe still not at the point of using it thoroughly yet, but great news that they are in the early stages of testing it out. The team also moved to supporting corridors and corridor loops, and the various required templates like space stations, caves, underground facilities and more, with the team's current goal being to get version 1 to the designers and artists so that they can gather feedback and get it production ready. Really exciting hearing about this work. It's going to be quite the incredible tool for speeding up the creation of pretty much everything from planets, moons and all the huge amounts of points of interest and assets needed to make them feel alive and real. I think once it's with the designers and artists, after the initial onboarding delay, things will come along much quicker, and it will be really interesting to see just how fast they can build a whole system, not just in terms of celestial bodies, but with content, locations, missions, NPCs, plus a lot more, and then continue to speed that up as time goes on. Now, moving on to the tech animation team, they spent time addressing small tasks to improve the quality of life for all devs, with many of these revolving around the asset pipeline in Maya, which in itself was refactored to both consolidate multiple workflows and solidify core pipeline code, with the knowledge gained throughout production so far. They also continued with another long-standing initiative to replace slow rigging solutions with a new plugin, with the team saying, "This will see us redefine our workflows for creating rigs and see a much needed improvement to character deformation throughout the game. It will take a long time to develop, but it's a worthwhile venture." Now, next up we have AI content. The team was focused on improving the visuals of general AI locomotion, with locomotion overlays and fidgets in need of improvement. So the team authored 40 new overlays, which include things like scalp scratching, knuckle cracking and stretching, and these overlays build on the walk cycle work completed earlier in the year to provide more visually pleasing AI locomotions. Really like the detail here. I do truly want to see NPCs as realistic as possible, as they will be making up the vast majority of the population. So getting it right will take some time and effort, but I personally think it will be worth this investment. The team also began using the dynamic conversation tech, which was recently delivered. This tech will allow groups of AI to spontaneously engage in conversation with one another, with the aim being to have this implemented across a variety of usables, and so far use cases have been created for a 4-person mess hall table, an idle spot, and arcade machines. Again, in terms of realism, I do hope it's not just going to be sounding like empty, repetitive dialogue like we hear in most games, but actually sounding like people are engaging with one another. It's a difficult system to get right, but we'll see what CIG can pull off. Now, for the AI tech team, the team worked on spaceship functionalities, including several improvements to quantum travel and quantum travel boost, and now ships can accelerate while spooling before the actual jump, with this functionality being exposed as an assignment for missions. Now, for the UI team, UI programmers supported various persistent universe releases by fixing bugs and adding requested features, plus they also refactored backend code to support the persistent tech coming in Alpha 3.18. Not long till that hits the PTU. That should also be around the end of June, early July, I would think more applicably, for the PTU for 3.18, but I'm looking forward to jumping in that and checking out this persistent streaming stuff. Oh, exciting times. Finally, for the visual effects team, they began work on the quantum travel rework, which included storyboarding and gameplay requirements at the different stages of the process, such as spooling up and entering and exiting, and they are now currently investigating how it could look in engine. It's nice hearing that quantum travel is getting a bit of a revamp, not only in terms of visuals and visual effects, but with boosting as well, bringing it more to how CIG envision it as more of a bigger deal than just being able to instantly zip around everywhere. So, there you have it. Quite the packed update with plenty of very exciting features and work going on. For me personally, I'm always excited to hear more about the work from the Montreal locations team, as fleshing out the PU with more points of interest, missions, and AI that you can interact with or fight against will really help to add a lot more longevity to the current alpha while we wait for the bigger ticket items to get completed. Lots to look forward to this year with 3.17.2 on the horizon, just to keep us a little bit more entertained while 3.18 is in the PTU. I am stoked for it all to come along, and we are getting much closer. But with that said, if you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow as we push towards 50,000 subscribers. Also, come and check me out over at twitch.tv/supermacbrother. I'm hoping to get back to streaming full time again as of next week, next Monday. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, huge thank you to my patrons and channel members, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.